Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on the Comptia Security Plus course, Advanced Browser Security. If you need to configure advanced settings in a browser, locate the Settings or Options section. This is usually found by clicking the three lines or three dots in the upper right corner of the web browser, then locate the Advanced Settings. If you're using a Microsoft based browser in Windows, you might also opt to go to the control panel in the icons mode, click Internet Options, then select the Advanced tab of the Internet Properties dialog box. Temporary browser files can contain lots of personally identifiable information. You should consider automatically flushing the temp files from a system every day. For example, a hotel that offers internet access as a server for guests might enable this function. This way, the history of users are erased when they close the browser. On a relatable note, salespeople, field technicians, and other remote users should be trained to delete temporary files, cookies, and passwords when they are using computers on the road. In general, most companies discourage the saving of passwords by the browser. Some organizations make it a policy to disable that option. If you do save passwords, it will be wise to enter a master password. This way, when saved passwords are necessary, the browser will ask for only the master password, and you don't have to type a reminder for all others. Use a password quality meter, www.passwordmeter.com, to tell you how strong the password is. Personally, I don't recommend allowing any web browser to store passwords, but your organization policies may differ in this respect. You might also consider a secure third-party password vault for your users, but this comes with a whole new set of concerns. Choose wisely. A company might also use the advanced settings of a browser to specify the minimum version of SSL or TLS that is allowed for remote connection. Some organizations also disable third-party browser extensions altogether from the advanced settings. You might also consider connecting through a VPN or running your browser within a virtual machine. These methods can help to protect your identity and protect your browser as well. Of course, this section has only scraped the surface, but it gives you an idea of some of the ways to secure a web browser. Take a look at the various browsers available that are usually free and spend some time getting to know the security settings for each. Remember to implement group policies from a server domain controller to adjust security settings of a browser for many computers across the network. It saves time and is therefore more efficient. In chapter 4, we mentioned that removing applications that aren't used is important, but removing web browsers can be difficult. It's not downright impossible and should be avoided. Web browsers become one with the operating system, especially some in the case of Edge, IE, and Windows. So great care should be taken when planning whether to use a new web browser, because it might be difficult to get rid of later on. Keep in mind that the technology world is changing quickly, especially when it comes to the internet browsing, web browsers, and attacks. Be sure to periodically review your security policies, web browser, and keep up to date with the latest browser functionality, updates, security settings, and malicious attack. One last comment on web browsers. Sometimes a higher level of security can cause a browser to fail to connect to some websites. If a user cannot connect to a site, consider checking the various settings such as trusted sites, cookies, and so on. If necessary, reduce the security level temporarily so that the user can access the site. Securing other applications. Typically, users shouldn't have access to any other applications than the ones they specifically need. For instance, would you want a typical user to have full control over the command prompt or PowerShell in Windows? The answer is doubtful. Protective measures should be put in place to make sure that the typical user does not have access. One way to do this is to use User Access Control, UAC, on qualifying Windows operating systems. UAC is a component of Windows Vista and newer and Windows Server 2008 and newer. It keeps every user beside the actual administrator account in standard user mode instead of as an administrator with full administrator rights, even if the person is a member of the administrator's group. It is meant to prevent unauthorized access and to avoid user error in the form of accidental changes. A user attempting to execute commands in the command prompt and PowerShell will be blocked and will be asked for credentials before continuing. This applies to other applications within Windows as well. Another way to deny access is to create a policy. For example, on a Windows server, you can do this in two ways. The first way is to disallow access for specific applications. This policy is called Don't Run Specified Windows Application, a form of application blacklisting. However, the list could be longer than Florida, so another possible way to configure the Run Only Specified Windows Application policy, a form of application whitelisting as shown in figure 5.7. This and the previously mentioned policy are adjacent to each other and can be found at the following path in Windows Server policy. In this case, use marketing policy, again user configuration policy, administrative templates system. So here you can see here figure 5.7, run only specified Windows application policy. When double clicked, the policy opens and you can enable it and specify one or more applications that are allowed. All other applications will be denied to the user if the user is logged onto a domain and is a member of the marketing OU to which the policy is applied. Maybe you as the systems administrator decide that the marketing people should be using only Microsoft Word, a rather narrow view, but let's use that just for the sake of argument. All you need to do is click enabled radio button, click the show button, and in the show contents window add the application, in this case Word, which is winword.exe, as an example of is shown in figure 5.8. You can see here. This is in-depth stuff, and the Comptia security exam probably won't test you on the exact procedures for this, but you should be aware that there are various ways to disallow access to just about anything you can think of. Of course, when it comes to Windows Server, for more practice you can get better for the exam and for the real world. For applications that users are allowed to work with, they should be secured accordingly. In general, applications should be updated, patched, or have the appropriate service packs installed. This is collectively known as application patch management and is an overall part of the configuration management of an organization's software environment. Table 5.1 shows some common applications and some simple safeguards that can be implemented for them. Mobile apps should be secured as well. You might want to disable GPS to protect a mobile app or the mobile in general. You should also consider strong passwords for email accounts and accounts to app stores and similar shopping portals. Watch for security updates for the mobile apps your organization uses. We also need to give some thought to back office applications that run on servers, database software, email server software, and other back office software needs to be hardened and secured as well. High level server applications from Microsoft include SQL Server, Exchange Server, and let's not forget FTP servers and web browsers. These applications have their own set of configuration requirements and might be insecure out of the box. For instance, a database server, FTP server, or similar server will often have its own separate administrator account with a blank password by default. It is common knowledge what the names of these administrator user accounts are, and if they haven't been secured, hacking the system becomes mere child's play. Be sure to rename accounts and disable unnecessary accounts and configure strong passwords just the way you would in an operating system. One other way to watch is for general consolidation. Some organizations, in an attempt to save money, will merge several back office systems onto one computer. While this is good for budget and uses a small amount of resource, it opens the floodgates for attack. The more services a server has running, the more open doors that exist so that the system, and more possible ways that the server can fail. The most important services should be compartmentalized physically or virtually in order to reduce the size of the attack surface and lower the total amount of threats to an individual system. Organizations use many applications specific to their type of business. Stay on top of the various vendors that supply your organization with updates and newer versions of software. Always test what effects one new piece of software will have on the rest of your installed software before implementations. So far in this chapter we discussed browser software, server applications and other apps such as Microsoft Office, but that scratches the surface. Whatever the application you use, attempt to secure it by planning how it will be utilized and deployed, updating it and configuring it. Access to the manufacturer's website for more information on how to secure specific applications you use. Just remember that users and other administrators still need to work with the program. Don't make it so secure that the user gets locked out. Secure programming. We mentioned several times that many applications are inherently secure out of the box. But this problem can be limited with the implementation of secure programming or secure coding concepts. Secure coding concepts can be defined as the best practices used during software development in an effort to increase the security of the application being built. They harden the code of the application. In this section we cover several types of secure coding concepts used by programmers, some of the vulnerabilities programmers should watch out for and how to defend against them. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing and subscribing. Thank you.